Actually, but one thing that astounds me is that, I think Hikaru, we can safely say, is one of the top players who really has this huge preparation with the computer. I mean, every time he's been in here. I mean, I think last year, I remember a game, I can't remember who it was against. I think he actually...
David, right?
He actually analysed it. Yeah.
He said David played all
the final position he saw, over move 30.
Yeah.
He'd already seen it. And that, for me, is, that's quite scary. So my question is, those with... Because it's a memory thing as well. I'm not in the same level of these guys, but you've got to think they've got so many permutations, so many lines, but the tricky thing is, a lot of them are so similar. So they've got to have this incredible memory bank to just think, hold on a second, okay. And I would think, are they not going to start getting mixed up? Because there's so little moves, the rook d7s and rook f7s, and was it this, was it that? And then doubt creeps into the mind. And it's like, oh, sugar, it's not clear at the moment. I'm looking at it. It's not clear which one it was. So what do you think? Do you think Hikaru possesses this really strong memory, or is it just a case of, he's naturally huge natural talent. I'm not denying that, but it's just I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that about the memory side of things?
Yeah, I think you do have to go over your lines very often, precisely for the problem you stated, that it's very easy to mix them up. And that's why, in fact, for instance, the Catalan, which is used to be, Vladdy built his house with this Catalan. And yesterday, even he was sitting and trying to remember exactly. And there are so many nuances. And it's more to the point of, it's not so much do I remember what I prepared, it's like, what is my opponent aiming for that you're trying to guess? Mm-hmm. What could I have missed? And things like that. But, I guess Hikaru is very good, and he's working a lot with the computer. So.
We're going to get...
If you work with Kasparov, does he bring along a big database for you?
That's a good question.
Is Nakamura's preparation, couldn't Kasparov be whipping out some novelties for him from a long time
ago? He said yesterday, didn't he? He said he looked at it in Croatia, this game, with Kasparov, yeah? He said he looked at this line in Croatia with Kasparov.
Are you worried that Magnus and maybe Nakamura have some Kasparov ideas? Would that concern you at all?
Obviously Gary's ideas must be good, but nowadays, all of us are sitting with these incredibly strong computers. And as long as you're willing to sit there and work hard, you can generate a lot of incredibly good ideas yourself and take them very, very far. So I'd say that what's driving everyone's preparation is because it's not only Magnus and Hikaru who have shown some interesting ideas recently. You find so many interesting ideas being played that clearly the ability to check your stuff with the computer is a big help.
I've got a question that I'm extremely intrigued about. I've never had the opportunity to really ask this to somebody of obviously your level. And there was an argument, or there has been an argument recently, that the growth of the computer for preparation and basically having it as your strongest coach has, in essence, wiped out any room for creativity for chess. And then there's the other argument. Well, actually, we've just sort of progressed as a chess player, whereby we are now using computers, and it's not that we're completely blunting out creativity. It's that we're having to be more creative with a new tool. So it's a new generation. Because I remember very recently, for some reason, I was supposed to be working and I wasn't, and I was looking at some really strange articles by a grandmaster called Valery Salov, who literally disappeared off the scene. Many people could claim, and Vishy can back me up, and I read that he was one of the best in the world in 99, around this period, maybe earlier. 2,700 plus rating at that point, huge rating. And, we're not going to go into that, but I remember him saying that he was certainly of the opinion that the growth of this computer thing, monster, and it's getting stronger and stronger, is actually meaning that you can't get into a position now where I, human, versus you, human, can sit down with our own brains and play. The computer has already played a lot of it for us before we've even sat down. What do you honestly think about? I mean, because we've seen it already about we're going into move 30-30. Are you of the opinion that it's actually just an evolution of the game, or you're of the opinion that we're actually regressing in some way from a creative perspective?
It's probably a bit of everything. I would say that we're tending to romanticize the pre-computer era too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like 30 years ago people had ideas for every game. People are all saying, I'm stuck in this opening, stuck in that opening. Mm-hmm. I can remember those conversations quite vividly. So even then, sometimes you didn't know what you could play in a certain line, and you could be stuck in a certain number of key variations. I think the computers, of course, level the playing field, and that's maybe the real cause for complaint, because now everyone has access to it, and you don't need to have access to a special coach or a team of seconds or something like that. I mean, they all help, there's no doubt, and they help in a way the computer can't. But nonetheless, the computer has a huge leveling effect, first of all in terms of information and in terms of analysis. I mean, in an ideal world, you'll still have good seconds to work with and things like that. But if you're in an island somewhere, you're much less handicapped now than you used to be 30, 40 years ago. So that difference is, and as for creativity, I think here computers have taken analysis incredibly far, to the point where a lot of the main lines just don't seem playable anymore, and people find it more and more difficult to come up with fresh ideas. But somehow the game keeps going on. So rumors of its death and all that. But I don't want to say that the game is safe forever. It somehow seems like a huge assumption to make. But at the moment, I would say it's hanging on, and it does seem to be creative and interesting if you do it right. And you can see that people tailor their approach. Someone like Magnus, I mean, he's clearly tailoring his approach to this new era, and he's the one who's doing it most effectively.
Do you think, and just then we'll say one more question, do you think, therefore, we may have a generation of intrinsically less talented players at the top, but simply because they've got this huge tool at their hands? You said it levels the playing field. Does that mean, no, seriously, does that mean you can get somebody who is genuinely a lot less talented play in inverted commas at the same level? Because hell, I've got Houdini, I've looked at this at home, I've seen all the sidelines, I've memorized the sidelines, I'm good enough to know that, if you do this, I know it's bad and I can take, but I know I'm probably not good enough, from a random position. So do you see what I'm saying on that?
Yeah, but talent is an incredibly subjective term, actually.
Okay.
And I mean, every generation looks back at when they were young and thinks, that was the golden era. I think there's an element of that. I don't think talent is an objective. So, I mean, the talent of tomorrow may look different, but I don't know if they're intrinsically less or more or something like that. And clearly, I mean, I grew up in an era where we had general rules, positional rules, and certain things you're supposed to do and not supposed to do, and so on. And that era has changed substantially to the one today where everything has to be proven. You can't just say, well, these double pawns are bad or something. You check it further with the computer and you just keep on analyzing. So in that sense, chess has become much more concrete. There's not much room for sort of general meandering. You have to be very, very specific in what you are trying to prove. But no, I think the computer will also, while it shuts a lot of doors for sure, it also opens new ones. I think there are some interesting positions which are played nowadays which couldn't have existed without the computer. So I would say so far it's a kind of balance. The computer has shut down a lot of fun areas, but there are new and interesting areas that come up. I mean, who would have thought that one of the most popular openings with computers around would be the Berlin defense? And in fact, in the year 2000, Kramnik was talking about how the Berlin was designed to blunt any edge that Kasparov might have had with computers. But in fact, nowadays the computer is suggesting a lot of very good and interesting plans in the Berlin, and that's why there are so many new plans coming up. So I mean that it's impossible to summarize everything about the computer's influence. That influence can take very unexpected turns as well.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Very insightful, yeah.
I better get a computer.